What's up, hungry people? Today we're getting our eat on out west. A few weeks ago, my husband and I decided to take a spontaneous trip out west. It was something we had always wanted to do, and after spending a year indoors, the great outdoors was calling our name. For the trip, our original plan was to do a loop around the Grand Canyon, boondocking along the route to Mount Zion, and then finally ending with a night in Vegas. If you want to see what we ate in the neon capital of the world, don't forget to hit that sub button so you can be the first to know when the next video is posted. Our first night in, we picked up our RV and drove over 100 miles to Hip Camp in Kingman, Arizona. And for the first meal on the first night in the RV, we opted for In-N-Out. Honestly, I was too tired to think to film any of this experience. It's just a hamburger, guys. The sauce is just ketchup, mayo, and relish. In the morning, we grabbed a quick cup of coffee and then hit the road. The first destination on our trip was the Grand Canyon. But as it was still March at the time of our trip, the weather had different plans for us. When we had booked our trip, the weather had promised desert temps in the mid-70s. But as we drove towards the Grand Canyon, the clouds got darker and the snow began to accumulate. By the time we got to the Grand Canyon, there was easily 6 inches of snow down, and less than stellar views. Yes, we traveled nearly 2,000 miles for this view. Let me tell you, disappointment was palpable. After spending a frustrating hour or two rerouting our entire trip to avoid a massive snowstorm, we altered our path to look a little something like this. While we were planning our new route, we were fortunate enough that the clouds finally cleared to give us some spectacular views. With all of the snow on the ground, we made the decision to skip the treacherous hiking down into the canyon and opted to get a quick lunch at the Tovar Restaurant on the edge of the Grand Canyon while we planned the details of the rest of our new trip route. To drink away our woes, we started lunch with a prickly pear margarita, which is not as sweet as it sounds, but it was still actually pretty delicious. For my main course, I had a mediocre fillet of trout and unremarkable soup, and my husband channeled his inner Joe Rogan with an elk burger. After that, we decided to hit the road as we were freezing. It was actually colder in Arizona the entire time we were there than it was in our home state of Ohio. A few hours into our new journey, we decided to stop for a bite to eat at the only place we could find along the route, Truck Stop Indian Cuisine. Honestly, this was probably some of the best food we had on the trip. That or nothing else could have disappointed us as much as the start of the day had, so we would have eaten anything. I don't remember specifically what we got as the menu only had a few items on it, but it was enough to sustain us for the final few hours for the long drive back. That night, we boondocked in the parking lot of the Hoover Casino because we weren't sure where else to go, and awoke to a spectacular view of Lake Mead. We went into the hotel just for a hot breakfast before we started the actual meat of our RV adventure. Breakfast was just breakfast, but it is always fun to look up and see some fake strippers spinning above your head while you eat. After breakfast, we were amongst the first to arrive at the Hoover Dam, which I felt was a unique experience to see the entire thing practically empty. Unfortunately, we weren't allowed to go on any of the inside tours, so our trip was quick but still a lot of fun to see. But now, it was time to disappear into the wild for a bit, like we had been wanting to do since day one. The Valley of Fire is about an hour northwest of Las Vegas, and its name lives up to the hype with red rocks all around. It is hands down one of the most beautiful places and some of the most unique scenery I have ever seen. For lunch, we decided to stop at the Seven Sisters to fry up some brats on the stovetop of the RV. Toppings included this prickly pear cactus hot sauce, leftover pickled curried onions that came with our Indian food, some ketchup and mustard, salsa, and some cheese. We had also made breakfast burritos with scrambled eggs in the morning, which I forgot to document, but the extra ingredients made for great brat toppings. If you've never enjoyed brats with curried onions and cheese in the middle of the desert, I actually highly recommend it. We spent the rest of our time exploring the Valley of Fire, spotting ancient drawings dotted amongst the red rocks, and hiking until our feet hurt. Finding the pastel canyons was a highlight of our trip. We were actually happy that a snowstorm ruined our original plans. That night we slept under the stars at the edge of Lake Mead and enjoyed hot dogs over a campfire. The stars here are undoubtedly some of the best. Even with Vegas in the distance, it's still one amazing view. We might have even seen a UFO as we were packing up to head back to Vegas. It's true, I don't know what this is. We definitely want to do more RV camping in the future. What do you recommend cooking on our next road trip? Let me know down in the comments below. Our next stop is Las Vegas, and let's just say the food in Vegas is a little bit better than the food you can find in the middle of the desert. If you liked this video, don't forget to click that sub button and ring the dinner bell so you can be notified of my latest recipes and foodie adventures that I post whenever I feel like it, apparently. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon.